Hello, everybody. I'm George Mind. I'm talking about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's remarks. So, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I hadn't heard of him until the other day, but he co-owns a football club. It's called Manchester United. Anyway, but he's a billionaire. He owns a company called Ineos. But very controversially, it was interviewed by Sky News. He said the United Kingdom is colonized by immigrants. They're costing too much money. You can't have an economy with 9 million people on benefits and huge level of immigrants coming in. And he claimed that the population of the United Kingdom has gone from 58 million in 2020 to 70 million now. What gone up like 12 million in just 6 years, and so on. So what he said was completely wrong and ignorant, because the population is about 70 million now, and though it has gone up in the last 6 years, it's nothing like 12 million. It might have gone up by 1 million in that time. Okay, goodness. And now, colonization and immigration are not exactly the same thing. So people immigrate into the United Kingdom legally, mostly. A few of them illegally. They want to come to the United Kingdom, so they obtain work visas and they shift to the UK and they work for a while. Sometimes they stay permanently. Sometimes they get indefinite leave to remain. They can stay to the day they die. Sometimes they obtain citizenship. Sometimes they don't get indefinite leave to remain, stay for some years, choose to leave or what. Okay, and some people from the Republic of Ireland, we don't even need that. We're very, very privileged. Likewise, citizens of the UK can settle in the Irish Republic. So that's what immigration is. So that was illegal immigration, which is different. But immigration's always gone on, and colonization is not quite the same. It's when one country establishes control over another. Could be by agreement, could be by force, could be a mixture of the two, and so on. And usually that means people moving to somewhere else. Take the example of Australia. So we go back, 240 odd years. Well, 26th of January, 1788, when the first Britons went to Botany Bay with the intention of staying permanently. Britishers had landed in Australia previously to get water, fresh vegetables, or whatever, hunt some animals, get back on their ships after hours or even days, sail away. No intention of staying long term. But this was different, a dumping ground for criminals or whatever, and some free immigrants. And there were about 500,000 Aboriginals. That's the estimate. And then white Britons come out, and gradually they establish control of the whole of Australia, and that was colonization, seen as like a home away from home for the United Kingdom, a mini Britain, like an adjunct of the UK. Obviously became completely self-governing, totally separate country these days. But that's one form of colonization. Colonization in India, for example, in the British Raj, was very, very different, in that, yes, the United Kingdom established control of it, sometimes direct control, British India, sometimes indirect control, signing agreements with indigenous rulers who would continue to rule their state as before, but cooperate with the British Empire. But very, very few white Britons moved there. They were only about 0.1% of the population. Was back to the late 19th century, in Australia, like about 95% of the population were people from British stock, by which I include Irish, because of course, whole of Ireland were part of the UK at the time. A few Aborigines and a very few who came from other countries like Denmark or Germany or whatever, and a few Chinese, almost all men, who weren't allowed to properly immigrate till the 1970s. So colonization and immigration can be quite different. The United Kingdom is not controlled by any other country at the moment. It was previously part of the European Union, and it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I mean, I think on balance bad, but it definitely had its good sides. Colonization can be horrific. It can be delightful. That's usually somewhere in between the two. So the UK isn't colonized. Most of these immigrants are coming into the United Kingdom because the UK wants them and grants them permission. And they're not wicked people for coming to the UK. And so he's completely wrong about this. Remember O'Brien, what's his name? James O'Brien, that sort of harumphing, supercilious, self-righteous, sanctimonious prig on the radio, leftard, but, he's brainy. And him saying, oh, you can't have a conversation about colonization, don't mention slavery. Well, you can, you did. The British, Great Britain and slavery. Okay, well, we'll have one. So that the United Kingdom did more to end slavery than any other power on earth, abolishing without the British Empire and the Royal Naval Slave Patrols to stop slavery in the Atlantic, to prevent it throughout its African colonies, throughout its Indian colonies, and so on. And no, indentured labor is not the same thing. Indentured labor is bad, is exploitative by today's standards, but is absolutely not slavery. It's only if you choose to join, you sign, you do get paid, you're out after a few years. They only do it, only men are allowed to do it, blah, blah, blah. All right. So remember, some countries like Saudi Arabia had slavery until 1962. That's officially. Obviously, unofficially, they have it to this day. So slavery has existed in every country at one time or other. Most countries have colonized others and been colonized themselves. And the United Kingdom wasn't always around. The UK's only been around since 1707. Obviously, there's a sort of predecessor states that had slavery, but what's now the UK was colonized other places. Ireland, I suppose, we kind of colonized Scotland, invaded that, controlled some of that. Raided for slaves on the coast of Wales and England. The Danes controlled half of England for quite a time, the whole of England for a while. The Normans, in a sense, the Romans, or whatever. So have colonized and been colonized, and so that's it. Goodness. So Jim Ratcliffe is really an ignoramus, but shows how we mistake wealth for intelligence. And well, it's true that too many people on benefits, and it's true that some immigrants come to exploit the benefit system. Some indigenous Britons exploit the benefit system. Most immigrants want to work and so on. Being an immigrant is a completely honourable thing. But who was that American Milton Friedman, that right-wing philosopher, economist, saying you cannot have a welfare state and mass immigration. In mass immigration, fine, they have to come to work. But if you have welfare, it really doesn't work. I agree that the benefit system is overgenerous. In growing economies like Singapore or South Korea or Japan, that they wouldn't do this. I mean, all right, growth is not that impressive in Japan anymore, because it means that the responsible end up paying for the irresponsible, and there's fecklessness, there's a parasitical class who will just rip us off and be on benefits when they shouldn't do. They have that discipline that you have to work or starve, and it's taken away from the hard working. And more people say, why should I be a chump? Why should I, give the sweat on my brow to those who are just going to slob around? You know what? I'm going to cheat the system as well. I'm going to be claimed to be ill, have anxiety, depression, and I'll just live off benefits, maybe work illegally and stuff like that. So, the United Kingdom is all gone wrong. That's why it's not often I agree with Robert Mugabe, the late Zimbabwean tyrant, but Britain has gone to the dogs. A country that is now invertebrate, has lost its sense of mission, it's lost its courage, it's lost its self-discipline. Is very, very dispiriting to see that. But anyway, a lot of Britishers would refuse to be carers, be cleaners, to pick fruit and so on, to wait on tables. And immigrations for that, immigrations for all level, they're IT experts, they're high-level bankers and surgeons. So, but yeah, it's partly because being on benefits has become a career, which is not forcing people to do work as we would have done a generation or two ago. But, there's always been immigration, but I realized the level was unsustainable several years ago. It's about right now. It's a sensible level. I'm not worried about legal immigration. I'm worried about illegal immigration. So Jim Ratcliffe doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, so he's made a fool of himself. He's apologized since. I know leftists like to jump on this to say, oh, you're so racist, to divert attention from Labour's many failings. Thanks for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, donate PayPal, georgecallan7@gmail.com. Goodbye.